I want to welcome you to QuickBooks and Keela, a match made in heaven. My name is Greg Bosson. And Maggie, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick to introduce yourself and whatever it is that you need to say, and then we'll get on with the webinar.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for the music. I really enjoyed that. That was the first time I was in a waiting room with music. Um,
Cool.
but my name is Maggie. I'm Keela's customer training specialist. Since everyone shared where they're tuning in from, I'm currently in Los Angeles in the States. I've likely corresponded with many of you already as I'm one of our go-to support personnel. I recognize many names already. I see Scott, Kayla, Shannon, so I hope you're all doing well. For those of you who aren't familiar, this webinar is part of our Care Lab series, which consists of webinars on best practices and product training specifically designed for our Keela clients. So we're always looking for new Care Lab suggestions, so feel free to throw any ideas you have for webinars in the chat. So that's it from me for now, so I'll pass it back over to Greg so we can go ahead and get started.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much. So first of all, to me, for who I am a CPA, and I specialize in teaching nonprofits how to use QuickBooks. I probably teach 40 or 50,000 students a year through one form or another. And that's through my company, QuickBooks Made Easy. And if you go to our website, let me go back to where my website is. Where is my website? Should be here somewhere. Here it is. QuickBooks Made Easy right there. So if you go to quickbooksmadeeasy.com, you'll find out where our webinars are, what they are, and when they're happening. We actually have a 3-day webinar series coming up in November for learning everything about QuickBooks. But anyway, and I also have a CPA firm in Atlanta. That's where I'm from. And we specialize in nonprofits. So we do around 30 audits of nonprofits a year. We do about 100 990s. So we have hundreds of accountants and bookkeepers and nonprofits that we help through technical support agreements and consulting and all this kind of stuff. So anything you need to understand about QuickBooks or accounting, if you're a nonprofit, we're the place to go to. But anyway, let's see. That's enough about me. And let's see, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go through that. That's our 3-day webinar series. I'll just mention this real quick at the beginning. So it's 2.5 hours a day for 3 days. We're doing it for people that have the desktop in QuickBooks, the 9th, the 10th, and 11th, and we're doing it for online users the 16th, 17th, and 18th. So, and I want you right now in the chat, tell me whether you're using QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. That's the first thing I need to understand. Are you using QuickBooks Desktop or are you using QuickBooks Online? So let's see. So far, everybody's okay, either in online or moving to online. Is there anybody? So Landis is in desktop. Anybody else? Keep going, keep going, keep going. Natalie uses both of them. She's ambidextrous. Jean's not using anything. Edit's in desktop. All right, cool. So here's the deal. So I want you to look at me real quick. Actually, you know what? We'll go past here. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. So I do this for emphasis. Hi. So I'm going to tell you right now, Keela syncs with QuickBooks Online. It doesn't sync with QuickBooks Desktop. Okay. Now, if you have QuickBooks Desktop, does that mean you should sign off this webinar? Absolutely not. Okay. Because we're going to spend about a half hour talking about how to enter income in QuickBooks. And the reason why we're doing that is because you must understand how to enter income manually in QuickBooks before you ever can understand how to map things so that you can sync from Keela into QuickBooks. Okay, I'm going to say that again. We're going to spend the first half hour talking about how to enter income in QuickBooks manually, because you must understand how to do that before you can ever map from Keela. All right. So if you are using desktop, stick around at least for the first half of the webinar, because we're going to talk about how to enter income, and I guarantee you, you're going to learn. Okay. So is everybody cool with that? If you are, tell me that you're cool with that in the chat, and then I will start teaching. but I won't do anything until you tell me that you're cool with it, because I want to make sure that you're cool. All right, Maggie's cool. We're ready to rock and roll. All right, so here's our agenda. Why sync Keela with QuickBooks? That will take about 2 seconds. Then, which products does Keela sync to? That will also take about 2 seconds. Then we're going to get QuickBooks ready for a sync. This is where we're going to talk about how to enter income in QuickBooks. And then after we do that, we'll explain what the lists need to be in order to A, use QuickBooks, and also to sync with Keela. Once we spend time setting up QuickBooks right, getting it ready for a sync, then we're going to turn it over to Maggie. Maggie's going to set up the sync for us. We're going to enter a transaction, and then we're going to sync it, and then we're going to show it how it ends up in Quickbooks. Okay. After we do that, then we're going to talk about some sync issues and how to correct them. All right. We're going to be able to do questions throughout. Simply put them in the chat. I can see the chat right there. Edit is telling us that he is cool or she is cool. Is it edit? Adit. Is it Adit? I don't know. Anyway, so you can say how to spell your name or how to pronounce your name, Edit, and I will start pronouncing it Wesley. Okay. So first of all, why sync with QuickBooks? Okay. Pretty simple. If you have QuickBooks and you have Keela, you're double entering. When a donation comes in, it either comes in through the Keela form, which is connected to your website, in which case it's in Keela, but then you've got to sit and enter it in QuickBooks. Would it be nice if you just push a button and it would also be in QuickBooks? Now, if you get a check in the mail, you got to enter that manually into Keela, and then you have to enter it again over in Quickbooks. So that's a pain in the butt. And the other thing is, then there's always this question, well, like I entered it in one, did I enter it in the other one? That's obnoxious. All right. Does anyone know what I'm talking about there? Anyone having trouble with that right now that's using both systems? You can go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can just put something in the chat so that I know that I'm not muted and you can still hear me, since no one's responding to me. Okay, yes, obnoxious, but too true. All right, so these are the products that QuickBooks will sync with. Or I'm sorry, that Keela will sync with. It will sync with QuickBooks Online Advanced, it will sync with QuickBooks Online Plus, and it will sync with QuickBooks Online Essentials, okay? If you do not know what product you have, do not be ashamed. You'll simply go into Quickbooks. Here's QuickBooks Online. By the way, this, hold on, is the desktop. So if your program looks like this, you're using QuickBooks Desktop. If your program looks like this, you're using QuickBooks Online. Actually, yours may look like that. But anyway, what you do, if you want to know what version you have, see this big fat gear over here at the top? It looks like a flower almost, or a gear, depending upon, I don't know how you're feeling. But I'm going to go ahead and click this, and I'm going to go over here to click Account and Settings. I know there's a few of you that have desktop. This is the same thing as the preferences in QuickBooks Desktop, okay? Will it sync with the Canadian version? Maggie, tell me whether it'll sync with the Canadian version. I put the slide just said US.
Yep, US, Canada, and Australia.
Okay, US, Canada, and Australia. I should change that in the slide. Thank you so much, Karina. All right, account and settings, very much like preferences in the desktop. This is what you do to figure out what version you have. You'll see something that says billing and subscription. You'll click on it. I'm using advanced, okay? So that's how that works, okay? Let me push the X to get out of here again. And just by the way, for those of you that are kind of curious about how Quickbooks works, anytime you want to set something up, and we will be setting up a few things, you always go to this little gear. Anytime you want to enter a transaction, you always go to this plus new if you're going to enter it manually. If you're going to download it, you got to go over here. But if you're going to enter it manually, you go over here. But if you're going to set something up, you got to go to the gear. Okay. So enough of that. Let's see. Where are we now? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Okay. Back into, oh yeah, I did mean to do that. Where's the slide? Okay, here we go. All right, cool. So understanding entering income in QuickBooks. And by the way, this is a 1-hour webinar. So we'll be done in about 45 minutes, supposedly. We may do a few minutes late, but not much, okay? All right. Now, listen, you must understand what I'm about to say. It's really important, okay? How to enter income in QuickBooks by Greg Bosson, okay? So there are 3 methods for entering your income in QuickBooks. One of them is called the lump by category method. Lump by category method. This is the method that people typically use if they are already using another database, a donor or member database, say for instance, oh, I don't know, Keela, and they are not utilizing the sync with QuickBooks, which I'm assuming none of you are, okay? So if you are using Keela and you've got QuickBooks Desktop, then you're going to want to use the lump by category method, okay? Now, what I mean by lump by category method, I mean lumping the deposit by income account. In other words, you're not entering invoices or pledges in QuickBooks. You are only entering income in QuickBooks when a deposit is made, and you're entering it either manually or you're syncing it from a download from your bank. To enter it manually, you go to the plus new and you click on bank deposit, and then you enter it right here. This is how you enter it manually. The point is you enter it lumped by income account, okay? So I don't enter each individual transaction individually, because if I did that, I will be really double entering. It's a pain in the butt. At least I'm going to lump them by income account. I have membership dues. I have 4 of them in this deposit, but the total is $425. And the then I have some individual contributions, and they are 10,000. See, I'm lumping them by income account, by category, okay? That's the lump by category method, okay? Now, again, you might be downloading transactions. I should really connect these accounts. If I have time, I'll do it. But anyway, you could also enter stuff that way, lumped by category from the bank feed, okay? Now, that's the first way to enter. The second way to enter, you don't have to worry about. It's called the individual method. This is where you enter things individually, and the only people that do this are people that are attempting to use QuickBooks as their donor database, their donor or member student database. That's not you, because you have Neon, okay? If I deposit in the bank register, wouldn't I have already entered that in QuickBooks, Carl? Yes, that's another way of entering a deposit. I don't teach it because, frankly, Carl, no one does that, okay? But it's okay if you do, but it's the same thing as entering it in the make deposit window. So Carl, you are fine, okay? So Marlene imports journal entries. That's fine also, okay? All right, so but the point is you lump them by category. Now, this individual method, this is what you use if you want to use QuickBooks as a donor database, okay? We're not going to worry about that. What we're going to worry about is the sync method, okay? This is the method that you use if you're using another database. It's like Keela, okay? I may have accidentally said another database, and I apologize. I mean Keela. And that does sync with QuickBooks, okay? So this is the one that you want to pick right here, okay? Now, I'm going to teach you how to do that. But before I teach you how to set up Keela so that it will work with QuickBooks, you need to get your QuickBooks set up right. And a lot of people don't have it set up to be able to do a sync, and I need to teach you, okay? So this is what we're going to do next. So we're going to go into QuickBooks. Now, some people might be used to, if you haven't synced before, you're probably used to going to the make deposit window and entering things manually like I just did, okay? Or you're catching it from the bank feed, or somebody's entering it in the register, or somebody's got a journal entry. That's all lumping it, okay? Now, if you want to use Keela and sync into QuickBooks, you cannot, well, let me just say it this way. Keela is not going to put things into QuickBooks by using a journal entry. It's not going to put things into QuickBooks by using the make deposit window. It's not going to put things into QuickBooks by using the register, okay? It's going to put things into QuickBooks by using a form in QuickBooks called a sales receipt. I'll say it again. If you are going to sync with QuickBooks, Keela and QuickBooks, Keela is going to push transactions into QuickBooks by entering them on a sales receipt. How many of you, well, I'm just going to ask you, do you guys know what a sales receipt is? Has anybody ever worked in this? Click yes or no in the chat. Who's familiar with sales receipts? Okay. So it looks like about 3/4 of you are, and 1/4 of you aren't. Okay. So I'm going to teach this. All right. So in order to teach this, and people get confused, first thing I want to say to you is I'm about to show you how to manually enter something in a sales receipt. Once you sync, QuickBooks will automatically get this information from Keela. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to manually enter something on a sales receipt form. But understand that once you get up to set up the sync, Keela will be creating the sales receipts for you. Okay. So now I'm going to act like I'm manually entering something into a sales receipt. And what I'm going to do is we're going to act like we don't have Keela. Okay. Because this is where you enter things manually if you do want to use QuickBooks as a donor database. You don't need to, but I still need you to put yourself in the shoes of somebody that doesn't have Keela and wants to use QuickBooks as a donor database. Here's how you enter income using a sales receipt, okay? And again, Keela will be doing this for you, but I just need you to understand this first, okay? So what's supposed to happen is this nonprofit, not you, because you don't have Keela, but because you have Keela, but somebody else, they go to the mailbox, they get a check, okay? The check is 25 bucks, okay? So what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to go into QuickBooks, Parker and Faith Ashford. They gave an individual contribution and they gave a check, and here's the check number. And this is where the money is being deposited to. We'll get to that in a minute. And then we put the dollar amount, 25 bucks, okay? And the class we'll get to in a minute as well, okay? That's what somebody would normally do. And then what they do is they enter this on the day they get the money, okay? So this is only $25, okay? So then they enter this, and then they take the check and they stick it in a drawer on a safe or something like that. They wait till the end of the week and then they go to the bank, okay? So that's typically how people enter stuff individually if they want to use QuickBooks as a donor database. This is the form that Keela is going to push to. So I need for you to understand what fields QuickBooks needs to know about, because you're going to be entering this information in Keela, okay? So the first field is the customer field. Well, that's not real complicated. That comes from the customer list, and Keela will send this customer list up to Keela, okay? So they will know your customer list. So when you go to enter something in Keela, if it can't find it in the customer list in QuickBooks, it's going to create the customer for you in QuickBooks, okay? And we'll talk about duplicate names in a second. So when you connect Keela to QuickBooks, which we'll do in a minute, it's going to upload the customer list so Keela will know about it, okay? All right. Now, this is where you put the payment method. Well, that's fairly basic. That's not complicated. Let's see, the bank account we'll get to in a second. The dollar amount, well, obviously you'll be putting the dollar amount in Keela. This field right here, I want to talk about for a second. It's called the product service field. Now, if you're used to entering things either via a journal entry or via the register or via the make deposit window or via the bank feeds, when it comes to your deposits, then you are used to putting an income account in when you're recording a deposit. You're used to putting an income account in where it says bank deposit. You're used to putting an income account here. If you're in the if you're syncing, if you're syncing with your bank account, it says category, but it's the same thing. It's your income account. Okay. Now, if you notice on a sales receipt, there's nowhere to put an income account. Doesn't exist. What you have to do instead, this is the part that's hard, you have to create a product service list, and each product service points to an income account. Now, I could speak for 2 days about product services, but what I want to say to you is, for you, product service equals income account. So you're like, okay, dude, I've been doing a bank deposit. It's been importing a journal entry. I've been in the register. I've been getting it from the bank feed. I'm used to seeing an income account here. Well, now that I'm going to be using Keela, I'm going to have to set up product services that are pointed to income accounts. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that. So you have to set something up. Now, I already told you before, where do you go to set things up? Put it in the chat. Where do you go to set things up? I mentioned it before. I'm looking at the screen. Yes, the gear. So I'm going to click on the gear, and I'm going to go to products and services. This is a list that you probably have not had a lot of familiarity with. If you've not been using the sales receipt, you probably never used it before. Well, you're going to be using it now. Now, all you do is you got to set up one product service for each one of your income accounts. Okay. So what you would do is you would look at your chart of accounts list first. I'm going to go to the chart of accounts list, and this is what you'll do prior to getting the sync ready. And I'm going to go down to my income accounts, and I'm going to say, okay, I've got one for individual contributions. I got one for corporate grants. I got one for membership dues. And you say to yourself, you say, self, I must set up a product service, one for each of these. Okay. So how do you do that? Very easy. You go to the gear, you go to product services. To create a new one, you go to this new right here, you click it. Now, it's going to ask you, do you want to make it a non-inventory, a service, a bundle, an inventory? Just make it a service. Don't sweat it. It doesn't matter. You can do either one of these, but just make it a service. Then this is where you point it to the income account. So I'm going to point it to the individual contributions income account. And then I'm going to name it, and I'm going to name it the same name as the income account that it points to. I don't have to, but I'm just doing it because it'll make it a lot easier, so I don't have to think in my head what goes to what. Individual contributions, okay? Now, I'm not even going to finish this because I already have one set up, but the point is, now, when I enter this product service on a sales receipt, QuickBooks is going to go, oh, you must want it to go to whatever the income account it points to here, okay? And then that's where it'll put it, okay? Now, once you get these things set up, then you'll be able to start using Keela, and this product service is going to be mapped to a field, and I think we call it income type in Keela. We'll see it in a second. Maggie will do it, okay? So now, after you enter this, you save it, okay? Now, there's one more thing I need to say. Even before I do that, I like teaching this. Why do you suppose you can't put an income account here on a sales receipt? Why can't you just put an income account? Why do you have to put a product service in that points to an income account? Well, I'll tell you why. They weren't thinking about us nonprofits when they created Quickbooks, okay? This is a sales receipt. Now, forget about your job. Forget about where you are right now. Imagine yourself, it's the weekend. When do you get a receipt in your life? Forget about QuickBooks, forget about your job, put it in the chat. When do you get a sales receipt in your life? Real basic answer. When do you get sales receipts in your life? Waiting for somebody to put an answer in the chat. There we go. We go to the grocery store when you buy something, exactly. Now, when you buy something and they give you a receipt at the grocery store, is the general ledger income account from Publix on your receipt, the grocery store? No. You see, QuickBooks thought you were going to give this receipt to the customer. You see, there are people that actually use QuickBooks as a cash register. I'm sure you've all gotten receipts out of QuickBooks from contractors and stuff, I'm sure. But anyway, go to an old antique store. Sometimes you get it that way. Anyway, so they assumed you were going to print this out. You don't want your receipt that you give to a customer to have a general ledger income account on it. What do you want to have on it? The products and services that you bought. So that's why they have this product service list that goes on these sales forms. Does that make sense? So that's why you have to do it. One more thing I got to teach. We're getting close to being done here. It's really not hard. Now, I want to go back to, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the person who went to the mailbox and came back and got a check for $25. They're supposed to enter that in here and they put it in the drawer. Don't y'all, where do y'all put your checks ready to deposit? Do you put them in a drawer? Do you put them in a safe? Where do you put them? Stick it somewhere in the chat. Curious. Where do you guys put your money waiting? In the safe. We got safes here. I know not everybody has a safe. Bank. In my purse. Good for you, Margaret. All right. Margaret's putting it in her purse. I love you, Margaret. Okay, cool. So here's the thing. This check came in on Tuesday. We're supposed to enter it on Tuesday. That's what QuickBooks assumed. But they know you're not going to deposit it on Tuesday. So they do not want you to put a bank account here. Here's typically where you put the bank account. The only time I pick a bank account here is if this is like some ACH draft that came in from a grant or something, and it's automatically put into the bank all by itself. But no, we're going to put it to this weird account in QuickBooks called Undeposited Funds. Every one of you have this, okay? It's in every QuickBooks file, Undeposited Funds. And what it is the representation in QuickBooks of the money sitting in the drawer waiting to be deposited. There it is, Undeposited Funds, all right? Some people actually change the name of the account. Let me fix this here, all right. Some people actually change the name of the account to what it really is. So I'm going to edit this and I'm going to put money in my purse, okay? So that you understand what it is. And you're going to use this anytime you enter income. It's going to go there first because they know it's, or you know, it's not getting deposited immediately, even if it's a credit card. It's going to be a couple of days. It's going to be batched, okay? So came through Keela, okay? So Keela is going to throw everything into undeposited funds. That's what you're supposed to do, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and let's just save and new on this window. I'm going to go back over to the chart of accounts, and you see how that money in my purse is at 0 right now. I'm going to refresh the screen. And when I refresh the screen, now that money in my purse is $25. Okay, let me zoom in if you can't see it. Here's $25. That money in my purse. It's an asset. Your bank account didn't go up. Good, you haven't gone to the bank. Let's do another. So now we got a sales receipt for, I don't know, let's see, this would be, let's say it was a membership due. General membership due, $65. And I'm going to save and new. I'm going to go back to my chart of accounts. And this still says $25. Why didn't that money in the purse go up? Why did that money in the purse go up? Why did it not reflect what I just did? Somebody put it in the chat. I'm making sure y'all are paying attention. You have to refresh the window. Thank you, Wendy. So I'm going to refresh the window. All right. So now that money in my purse is $90. Okay. Now let's do a credit card. Okay. So let's say Chad Marie Brown, they gave us a sponsorship of $1,000, but they paid by credit card. Now, I'm not putting anything in the drawer, but I'm still going to act like I'm putting it in the drawer. So I'm going to put that money in my purse because I know it's going to be batched and there may even be a fee taken out and it'll be deposited later. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close this. I'm going to go back over the chart of accounts. I'm going to refresh my screen. And now that money in the drawer is going to be up to 1,090. Now, when it's time to make a deposit, okay, Keela is not going to know when the deposit is made. What Keela is going to do is going to send it down and it's going to create those sales receipts and it's going to make undeposited funds go out up and it's going to make the income account go up. But they're going to be sitting there waiting to be deposited. When it's time to make the deposit, no more going to the register, okay? You will either go to the plus new button and click bank deposit, and there's everything waiting to be deposited. Or you can also take a deposit from the bank feed and match it to these things waiting to be deposited. It's really kind of cool. If I have a chance to put the bank feed on, I'll do it. But anyway, so what I'm going to do instead here is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to open up the drawer. It's the end of the week. And here is my check for 25. And here's David Bowie in there. And so that's $90. What I like about this is that now I entered this stuff as it came in. If when I open up the drawer, there's something on this screen that's not in my drawer, not in my safe, or not in my purse, somebody done stole something. Okay, that's an internal control. I like it. Here's the bank account it's going to end up in right there, checking. And then I'm going to click save and close. Okay. Now, when I go back to my chart of accounts list, let's go back to the chart of accounts list, you will see that that money in the purse has gone down. Now it's only 1,000 and the bank account has gone up. So that's the process. You'll enter stuff in Keela. We'll map in a minute. It'll come down from Keela. It'll be on the sales receipt, waiting to go to undeposited funds or waiting in undeposited funds, and then you'll go to make the deposit to finish things out in Quickbooks. That way, the person in Keela doesn't have to worry about when things are deposited, and the person in QuickBooks doesn't have to worry about what's going on in Keela. Everything in Keela gets sent down, and if it never makes it into the bank, then they can ask the person in Keela, this was never deposited, what happened? Okay, so bye, Landis. All right, so the only other thing I need to teach you is the following. Didn't show you this before, going to show you now. Only going to take a second, going to go to the sales receipt, and you will see that there is another field that I didn't talk about that I do want you to start using. This is a QuickBooks thing, and that is this class field. Classes are a way of breaking up your P&L into program, admin, and fundraising. If you don't know this, all P&Ls for nonprofits have to be broken up into programmatic activity versus admin activity versus fundraising activity. All right. And all expenses have to be reported that way, as well as income. Well, you only have to really do expenses, but I like doing income as well. And the reason why is because if you do that, you can run a P&L. Let me show you. You can run a P&L. This is a standard P&L. But you can also run a P&L by class. So class is a feature you should be using. And now what I can see is for each one of my programs, I see exactly how much money has been spent in each program, okay? All of the revenues that relate to a program, I put to that program so I can see how much money I made on the Synergy Conference. So it's just like mini P&Ls now. So I want you to use these columns here. I want you to use classes for your different programs, but I need you to have a class for fundraising as well. And admin, okay? Now I'm going to go to the gear and I'm going to go to all lists. And then I'm going to go to classes. These are where your classes are. Every one of you should have at least 3 classes, because you're going to have 1 class for admin, 1 class for fundraising, and then you're going to have a class for each one of your programs. And again, you have to do this, okay? Otherwise, doing your 990 at the end of the year is a nightmare. Okay, let's just go into a 990 and I'll show you real quick if you've ever done a 990 before. If you haven't, welcome to the 990. But anyway, here's your expenses. Notice how we have a column for program, a column for management, and a column for fundraising. And then the rows are your natural way of thinking about expenses, travel, supplies, what have you, okay? Now, if you ever get an audit done, you also must report that way. So let's see. All right. Let me get back to, let's see where it is. Okay, cool. Hold on 1 second. As if you have a choice in the matter. You have to hold, right? But this is good. It'll give your brain a chance to rest. Let's see, where is my functional expenses? Here it is. Okay, cool. So this is how I have to report on an audit, where the rows are the natural categories, the columns are programs, admin, and fundraising, okay? So these are your class fields. I only have 1 program here. You might have more than 1. These are going to be mapped to either impact area or campaign in Keela. I think you should use impact area for it. Anything that you get in that's unrestricted, put to the fundraising impact area. If it's for a particular program, put it to that program's impact area. So what you need to do in order to set things up to use the sync is, first of all, you've got to look at your income accounts and set up product services that point to them. And then you have to look at your class list and add the classes for your different programs. Once you do those 2 things, you're ready to do the sync. All right. So what I'm going to do now, Maggie, you are on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Maggie. Maggie is going to show you, now the account's already connected, but she's going to show you, walk through how to connect it, walk through where you map it, and then she's going to enter a transaction, and then we're going to look at it in Quickbooks. Okay, she'll turn it back over to me, and then I'll make the deposit. All right, go for it, Maggie.
Thanks so much, Greg. All right, so now we're in Keela. So the first thing you're going to want to do in your account is click on your organization's name in the top right, and you're going to head to organization settings. Once you're in organization settings, you're going to head to integrations, the tab at the top. And this is a list of all the available integrations with Keela. So we're going to be focused on QuickBooks. At the moment, this current account is already connected to a QuickBooks account, but if you haven't connected yours yet, it's super, super easy. All you would do is press Actions, Connect. What it's going to do is prompt you to log into your QuickBooks account. And then you just press a big green Connect button, and then it's done. So it's literally 2 buttons that you click, Connect and Connect. So it's very intuitive. Once you do that, everything should be linked and you should be ready to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by adding a transaction. And Greg, I might need your help for the fields to fill here.
Wait, do the mapping first.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do the mapping. So we'll do, if you press Actions after it's connected, we have to press Sync Settings because we have to set up the like the mapping where you want the different categories to go into QuickBooks. So the first thing we have is income, and Greg mentioned this. So what you want to do is start mapping, okay, so your donations. You have to choose which product and service that you want these donation transactions to be directed to. And you're going to do the same thing for revenues, okay? Donations are tax deductible transactions, while revenues are non-tax deductible, so they're a little bit different. And you'll notice that revenues have different categories available for products and services.
Let me stop because Marlene asked already, and I knew we were going to come across this. Marlene's like, we have 13 income accounts, but Keela only has space for 6, right? So understand that we can link to 6 income accounts and no more, basically, correct?
Yes.
Because those are the 6 that we're looking at on the screen right there.
Right. Yeah, that's
So
the way
that's
it's
right.
categorized.
That's right. So, but Marlene, what I would say to you is it may be that you're using the 13 income accounts to split things up when you could conceivably get that information out of Keela, and then you can start merging income accounts. Okay. And then Natalie has the same one. She has 3 different GL accounts for grants: federal, provincial, and municipal. So Natalie, what you would do is you would have 1 income account for grants, and then you would in Keela use federal, provincial, or municipal. Can you tell her what field you would use to get it broken out in Keela?
Field as in?
In Keela, like she needs to have the federal, the provincial, and the municipal. She has to have a way of showing those separately. If she can't do it,
Yeah, you definitely can. Like if you're talking about being able to see the
in
amounts
Keela, how would you do that in Keela?
yeah, so you could add like a keyword, for example, to that transaction. So if you have a federal grant, you could add a keyword for federal grant. And what that's going to do is allow you to report separately on all those grant types. You can also report on all the grant types combined by reporting on, I want to see federal, provincial, and municipal totals. Or you could break it down by the different categories.
And the same is for Eric. Now, if you only have, it goes to 6. If you have more than 6, your option is to look at merging some of those accounts and then getting the splits from a field in Keela. The other thing I want to say to you is if you would prefer to have Keela update this so that you can map, to more accounts, then I would ask them to do that. Okay, because I agree with you. It's something that needs to happen. All
yeah,
right.
so that would be like a feature suggestion, for example, placed in our product portal. Yes,
All right.
exactly. Thanks, Laura. Laura posted it in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. So let's work with what we have here. So under donations, Greg, feel free to chime in, but I imagine donations we want to go to.
That one, contributions and individual contributions.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then for revenue grants,
Mhm.
we'll do
Corporate and foundation. And just so that you know, I understand, I did that yesterday. I had them separated too yesterday. I have one for corporate and one for foundation, and I lumped them so that we could get the mapping done. So I'm feeling you. Okay, go ahead.
So for revenue sponsorships, we'll do sponsorships. Revenue memberships, membership dues. Revenue purchases, we'll do miscellaneous. And revenue other program fees?
Yes, program fees.
Okay, great.
So that's the income.
Yeah, so we mapped all our income. So everything that goes into QuickBooks is going to be connected to a product or service.
And then we got to do expenses and classes.
Yep.
Now, expenses is amazing. Okay. What this is, if you're using the Keela form that's on your webpage, you know that there's a fee, right? And so that means there's an expense. Keela will send over, in addition to the sales receipt, it's going to also send over a fee, and it's going to enter that in QuickBooks as well. And it wants to know what expense account to put it to for the fee and what bank account to take it out of. Okay. And it's a fabulous feature that we don't see in any of the other CRMs in terms of mapping. So in terms of sending transactions over. So this is impressive. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to complement what Greg said, these are referring to the processing fees that Stripe or PayPal will charge. So like on Keela forms, how donors can specify if you have that option on the form to help you cover the processing fee. So what this integration does is that extra amount that they want to pay to support you in paying those fees that Stripe or PayPal will charge is actually sent over into QuickBooks, into expenses.
No. Well, the fee itself is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have to choose here like our stripe fee category. So Greg, do you want to provide a little bit of context?
This is the expense account that the fee would go to. And I think, is there a credit card merchant fee right
Yeah.
down there? So because this way you can see when you look at your P&L what your fees are. Okay. And you could set up a separate one for Stripe as PayPal, but anyway, I would assume most of you guys either use one or the other, not both.
Okay, and then we have to choose an account.
A bank account that it's coming out of. So just put it to checking because that's where it may come out. You could connect it to a credit card too. I saw on a sample, you could connect it to a credit card account. So that's the expenses. And let me just, so to make sure people get this straight, because it's a little confusing. Oh, Terry uses both. So like say I give you $100, okay? And then I check the box saying, hey, I want to help pay for it. So that pay the fee. So then I'm technically giving you $103. So it's going to send a sales receipt down for $103. And that whole $103 is a donation. And that whole $103 is going to go to individual contributions income. As a separate transaction, the actual fee charged might be a little more, might be a little less than $3. It's always an estimate. But the actual amount charged, that comes over as a second transaction, and it gets pointed to that credit card merchant fee expense account. Okay. Okay. Oh, Eric, you're okay. That's fine. That's fine. Do income transactions excuse me, automatically get deposited under undeposited funds? I think that's right, Maggie. I don't think we had a choice on that. The account that the income goes to, I think, is automatically undeposited funds. I don't think you can use another account.
That's when we tested it before is what happened.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. So that's the expense. And then the last thing would be the classes.
Okay, so we'll jump to classes. And we decided on impact areas. You can use campaigns depending on the way you have things set up, but Greg is recommending impact areas. So you'll notice if we select impact areas or campaigns, you have the option to add mapping. Okay, so if we click add mapping, it's going to prompt us to choose an impact area from Keela. And then our QuickBook classes that we have in QuickBooks will automatically appear. And by the way, if you add any of this afterwards, like I know we're talking about making some adjustments to maybe what you have now, this will update automatically once you add things. So if we do impact areas, I think one of them we had was fundraising. Okay, and then we connect it to fundraising, QuickBooks class. And then we can add mapping, which just means we want to add another one. So we can do administrative. And I'm just going to go ahead and map all of Greg's suggestions here.
So there's impact areas were things that were entered in Keela, and Maggie and I did that yesterday. And then the QuickBooks class, it's pulling from QuickBooks, the right side. And that'll automatically show you new classes if you add them right before you go in here to do the mapping.
Right.
There may be a few minute delay, but not much.
Yeah, you might have to refresh the page and wait a little bit, but
what happens when my class has 3 tiers, i.e. programs, youth day, and camps? So I would create, if you want those separated out, I would create, oh, are they subclasses, Marlene? Because if there's subclasses, I think they'll appear here. I believe they'll appear here. So I think we're done. You can go ahead and click save.
Okay.
I'm going to create a subclass to see if it works. So, and you can go ahead and keep teaching while I'm doing that.
Yeah, in the meantime, so let's say now we have a transaction. I'm going to create one manually, but this could have also be done through a form. Okay, it's going to work the same way. So let's create a new donation. We'll choose a contact, gift type. We'll stick with money. Let's say it's a $200 cash contribution. The payment method, let's say it was paid via cash. Date received, we can keep it as is. So we'll go next. And under associations, just so you can understand how Keela sends information into QuickBooks, we'll choose one of those classes or impact areas. Okay, so let's just go with fundraising. All right, so everything is set up here. So we'll go ahead and press save. All right, so now we have this new transaction. So let's say we want this transaction or several transactions that have come in, let's say in the past month or week or whatever it is, you're ready to get them over into QuickBooks. So what we have to do is go back into organization settings, and then we go back to our integrations. Here's QuickBooks, all right? So anytime you're doing anything with QuickBooks, you're gonna find it here in organization settings. So you'd go ahead and press actions. All right, and you'll notice because we set up the sync settings, now we have these two other options that appear. We have sync transactions and view sync history. Sync transactions is where we're going to actually sync those transactions. View sync history is going to allow us to see all the transactions that we have synced over in the past for reference. All right, and so if we click sync transactions, you'll see all of the synced transactions within your account. If you want all of them over into QuickBooks, it's super easy. If you click this little arrow, you can select all pages. You'll notice a little actions buttons appears where you can sync transactions. Okay, there's also a button for skipping transactions. Now, what that means is we understand that some organizations don't want certain transactions synced over into QuickBooks. In other words, there's certain transactions that they don't even want to show up on this list. So that way they can only send over what they want. So what you could do is, let's say you have transactions from like Facebook or something that you don't want over into QuickBooks. You could filter out based on a fundraising transaction source. And let's say it was Facebook. I'll choose Canada Helps just for reference. So what I'm doing, just to reiterate, is I'm filtering out unsynced transactions that come from the source, Canada Helps or whatever it may be. So what I can do is there's only one, but let's say there were several. I could select all pages, I could single select, depending, actions, and I could skip them. Confirm. So what that means is now that transaction is off this list. And what that's going to allow me to do is, let me clear my filters now to start back. Then I can select all pages and go ahead and sync, because I know that the ones that I don't want over in QuickBooks are already off this list. But for the sake of testing, what we're going to do is just choose the one we just created, so Greg doesn't end up with thousands of transactions in QuickBooks. And we'll go ahead and press actions, and we'll go ahead and sync the transaction. Okay, so you'll notice that transaction now is removed from this list because it's no longer an unsynced transaction. If we go to sync history, we'll see all of the transactions that have been synced in the past, including the one that I just synced over, and I can see that the sync is completed. So before I pass it back over to Greg, a few things came in the chat. So Eric asked if the automation feature would allow you to schedule the sync. So not at the moment, but that's a great suggestion if you wanted to add that to the product portal link that Laura linked earlier. If I'm not an, let's see, Kayla asked, if I'm not an admin of our QuickBooks Online account, will I be able to sync transactions? So
I believe
admin of the
so.
QuickBooks, yeah.
Yeah, so like the admin, I think you have to be an admin. When you sign into QuickBooks to set up the sync, you have to be the admin. But once this thing is set up, I would think anything, because you're not really signing into QuickBooks every time you push sync. So I think anybody could sync into QuickBooks at that point.
Okay, thanks, Greg. And in Keela, you would want to be an admin, so you have access to organization settings to be able to do this. And then Natalie asked, how does Keela map contacts to QuickBooks customers? We want to avoid a long list of individual names in QuickBooks. Is there a way to map, for example, all individuals in Keela to a generic customer like individual donors in QuickBooks? What would be your, well, it's not possible.
It's because, like, say you get thousands of donations in Keela, and you don't want to clutter up the customer list in QuickBooks with all those individual names because you don't need them. So she's saying, can we just have it all go to a generic customer? The answer is no, but it's another thing that you might suggest that Keela change. Okay. importing all of these individual contacts, the concern is that it would slow down QuickBooks if you have all these new contacts in here. I don't think it would.
We haven't had anyone bring that up so far since we've had the
Mhm.
QuickBooks integration. So.
And Kara says, can you just batch the transactions in one sync for one transaction in QBO? Now, Kara, I want you to think about this. You can't, but here's why you can't. They don't know how the deposit occurred. They don't know what the batching is. So that's why we can't just send over a bunch of transactions into one transaction in QuickBooks, because then you'd have to do that one deposit on its own. And QuickBooks doesn't know that. Does that make sense, Kara? That's why you can't do that. Got to send them over individually. Okay. We can put it to a generic name, hopefully, if Keela changed that. But all right, so I'm going to go back in. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go into where I go to make a deposit. I'm going to click plus new. I'm going to go to deposit, bank deposit. And there's Lola Rabbit right there, $200. I did not enter that. Okay, let me show my face again, even though it's irrelevant. Let's see, start the video. There we go. I didn't enter this. It just happened. Okay, let's go into Lola Rabbit, because Lola Rabbit, here's the transaction. It got sent down from Keela. Okay. There's the name. Probably add it to the customer list. We'll look at it in a minute. Here's a reference number. Does anyone know what that means? A programmer at Keela does. Nobody else? Okay, this is whatever that is. Okay. It knew to put it here because that's what I mapped it to. It knew to put it here because that's what I mapped it to. And it automatically goes to that money in my purse. Okay.
And the reference number is the transaction ID in Keela. So if you ever want to cross-reference to make sure, you can look at the transaction profile in Keela, the number, and you can match it to this if you're ever confused, if it's the same one you're thinking about.
Okay. Now, for those of you that sync from that link your bank account through the bank feeds, if I click on the bank account here, this is the waiting room where all your downloaded transactions from your bank are. This is for those of you that don't ever enter manual deposits. You're just used to just adding them from the bank feeds. Well, look at what we can do here. I can click on one of these. Let's see if we can find one that's, here's one, pick that one. So I'm going to click it, and I can click find match. And then you pick your date. I don't know what date that came over. Let's see. Now let me try that again. Let's just do this one over here. Find match. There we go. So see, Lola Rabbit is sitting there. So what I'm saying is you could have Keela send over the transactions into sales receipts and then simply match them to the deposit. Okay. So that's how that would work. It's really kind of cool. Now, what you do is you check them off. Okay. And obviously the deposit's $900, so we're missing something. But let's assume I'm just going to manually put in another here. We'll put in 752.15. We'll act like that's one that just got part of the deposit, but I just needed to add it. But anyway, so let's say that this was a credit card, and it is a lot of times if it's coming from Keela. So then what you'd want to do is in the bank feed, you would check off the ones that came from Keela, and then you would enter the difference, okay, as a minus $52.15. And then under the category, you would point that to the credit card merchant fee. And then you can simply click save and close, and it'll record the deposit and it'll disappear from the bank feed. If you don't use bank feeds, you can do all what I just said manually. Okay. So I'm going to go to new. I'm going to go to bank deposit. Here's the stuff that came in from Keela. We'll act like both of these came in from Keela. Okay, there's that one, definitely did. And then I'm going to put the credit card fee, if there is one, down here. Merchant credit card fee minus, whatever the fee was, $52.18. I got to put it in as a minus. Oh, I'm in the class field. Got to put it in over here, minus $52.15. And then this would go to fundraising. Oh, I set up a new sub account. We should see how that, look and see if that's in there, Maggie, in your Keela, if that new class appears when you go to do the mapping.
Okay, let me.
But anyway, so now you just save and close. So that's basically how that process works. Let's go into the customer list, which is under sales, and let's take a look and see if it added Lola. There's Lola Rabbit right there. We'll click on her. We'll click edit. So this all came from Keela, so it created it. Now, what it does is this will address a syncing issue. If it's going to look at this field, this field right up here, the display name field, and it's going to look at this email field in QuickBooks. If it can't find an exact match to one of these two, it's going to create a new name and you'll end up with a duplicate. And the way to fix that is to merge the two. You can merge names in QBO. It's probably something you should be doing anyway, okay? So if you've got two names that are really the same people, one of them is Jay Smith and the other one is Jason Smith, and they're the same thing, you can merge them by simply changing the name of one so it matches the other. We're over time now, so I'm going to do this one little thing. If you like me and you like the way that I'm teaching, and you need to know more about QuickBooks, you go to courses and training, and you go to webinars right there. Next month, on November 16th, 17th, and 18th, we're going to do 2.5 hours a day. We take breaks every 45 minutes. Okay, I promise you. We'll have music. It'll be fun. There's drugs involved. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about QuickBooks. I'm going to do the same thing for those of you who are on this call that are using the desktop program. I'm going to do the same thing there on 9th, 10th, and 11th. Okay, so either one, but I can click on this and you can read everything that's covered in day one, everything that's day two, everything is day three. And the whole thing is $249. Normally, this is if you get a VIP ticket, but $249 normally. And we're going to give you a discount. And I'm going to give you the code now of the discount because the code is, there it is. The code's $50 off. The code is Keela 50, all caps, Keela 50. $249 normally, $199 for you. This is when it's happening. You can put it in the chat too, Bill. And you've got until Saturday night to go ahead and put this code in so you can get the discount. And then we can have fun because it's really enjoyable. Let's see. And I guess the only other thing we need to do is this. Let's say syncing issues. Let's say somebody enters it in Keela and they also enter it in QuickBooks. So it's in two places. Okay. So if they enter it in Keela and then they enter it in QuickBooks manually, and then Keela syncs over to QuickBooks, now you're going to have two transactions in QuickBooks when there's only one transaction in real life. So you will see that that occurred because there'll be two deposits when only one happened. Okay, or two things in undeposited funds when only one happened. The other thing is if you just establish a policy that the income starts in Keela and then goes into QuickBooks, nobody be entering anything in QuickBooks. We sync it all from Keela. That'll ensure that all your revenue is always in Keela, which is good for your marketing people, and that we don't have that problem. Okay. The other thing is if somebody pointed a transaction in Keela incorrectly, maybe they put it to the wrong impact area, or they put it to the wrong, they called it a donation when it was a revenue or something like that. It's going to come over to QuickBooks wrong. If you later discover it, you need to fix it in QuickBooks directly and in Keela directly. Some people go, can I resync? No, you can't resync. All right. And then we already talked about the duplicate customers. Okay. So I think that's everything. Let's go into the chat and see, is there anybody that has a question? Oh, and Maggie, you can tell her that the subclass showed up.
Yep, it shows up, works.
Okay, cool. So what did y'all think, guys? Put one thing in the chat about how you feel about this syncing. Is this something you think you're going to try? Put it in the chat. I'm curious to see. Who thinks this is cool? Go ahead.
Greg, Eric had a question. He said if Keela already created the expense, wouldn't that double up the fees?
You mean, well, so if you are connected to the bank feed, it'll match to the expense that got downloaded from Keela. If that answers your question, Eric, let me know if it doesn't. Okay, Tracy's definitely going to use it. Anybody else? Mel says awesome. It's cool, isn't it? But let's go ahead and as a group, let's put in the, wherever that is in Keela, let's ask them to allow the mapping of more than 6 product services. And let's ask them to create a generic customer that you could point things to. Okay. But
I'm gonna add the link to the product portal where you can make requests to the product team. I just added it into the chat.
Okay, cool. So I think we're good. I hope to see you next month. Keela 50, and you go to quickbooksmadeeasy.com to sign up for it. And are you going to put this on? Are you uploading this so that people can see this later, Maggie?
Yeah, we're gonna send it out to everyone. Mel's on it.
Okay, so if you upload it, cut the music out because they get mad because the music is technically, we can't have that up.
Yeah, we'll fix it up a little bit. No worries.
Okay, cool. Yeah, take the music out, and then I'm feeling kind of sassy, so I'm gonna do this. No, not that. That's not the one. Where is the? Oh, we'll do this one.
Greg, you are the funnest person to do webinars with. It's like I was laughing this whole time.
Okay, you can sign us out whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I think we're all set. So thanks everyone for coming. Greg, thank you so much. You're an amazing host. I've learned so much. I took notes the whole time.
Cool.
If anyone needs any support with the Keela side, just reach out to support@keela.com and we'll be happy to help. I have Greg. I can always email him and he can help us out too. So let us know if you need anything and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
See you later, man. Bye.